For nearly 3 decades, rugby fans dreamed about a moment they thought might never return, and now that moment is finally here. When the All Blacks step onto South African soil for a full traditional tour beginning on August 7th in Cape Town, it will be far more than another international series. It will be the rebirth of one of sport's greatest traditions, where history, pride, and passion collide once again. To many supporters, this feels like stepping back into rugby's golden era, yet at the same time it represents one of the smartest and most ambitious scheduling decisions modern rugby has ever produced. Springboks captain Siya Kolisi perfectly captured the emotion by saying this is the kind of tour his generation only heard stories about. Those stories were passed down from parents and grandparents who witnessed legendary battles stretching over weeks instead of isolated test matches. For almost 30 years, professional rugby moved away from these marathon tours because the calendar became crowded, commercial demands increased, and international competitions left little room for old traditions. But now, the rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks has found a way to honor its past while embracing the future. This remarkable journey will feature 8 matches across 6 unforgettable weeks, including 4 clashes against South African provincial teams before 4 massive test matches against the reigning world champions. It is a schedule that feels almost impossible in today's game, and yet it has become reality because everyone involved understands that some rivalries deserve something greater than a normal test window. To create this extraordinary event, the Rugby Championship has even been paused for the season, with the same arrangement already planned again for 2030 when the Springboks will make their long-awaited full tour of New Zealand. That decision alone shows just how important this rivalry remains to world rugby. Every generation has defining sporting contests, and for rugby supporters, nothing compares to watching the black jersey meet the green and gold. The anticipation surrounding this tour has been building for months because the last proper All Blacks tour of South Africa came all the way back in 1996. At that time, rugby itself was entering a completely new world. South Africa had recently emerged from a historic period of political transformation, and professionalism had only just begun changing the sport forever. Led by John Hart, the visiting All Black squad traveled with 36 players in what Sean Fitzpatrick still describes as the first truly professional rugby tour. What followed became part of rugby folklore. New Zealand won the series 2-1, becoming the only All Blacks team ever to win a full test series on South African soil. The margins were incredibly fine, every match demanded complete commitment, and the decisive victory in Pretoria remains one of New Zealand rugby's greatest achievements. Yet perhaps the most emotional moment happened after the rugby was over. Sean Fitzpatrick recalled meeting legendary former All Blacks fullback Don Clark, who had experienced the heartbreak of touring South Africa decades earlier without success. Overcome with emotion, Don Clark reportedly stood there in tears, knowing that an unfinished chapter stretching back nearly 70 years had finally been completed. That single moment reminds everyone that this rivalry has never been about one match or one trophy. It has always been about generations carrying the hopes of those who came before them. Before that historic 1996 triumph, New Zealand had traveled to South Africa in 1928, 1949, 1960, 1970, and 1976 without ever winning a series. Those tours became part of rugby history for reasons extending well beyond the field itself, shaped by political tensions, changing societies, and unforgettable sporting drama. When the Springboks later toured New Zealand in 1981, the rivalry again became one of the most talked about events in world sport. By finally breaking through in 1996, the All Blacks closed an account that had remained open for 68 long years. The players who achieved that feat returned home celebrated as the Incomparables, a nickname that still carries enormous respect throughout New Zealand rugby. Now, almost 30 years later, New Zealand rugby has revived that famous identity as inspiration for another historic mission. Former captain Sean Fitzpatrick believes repeating such an achievement would provide the perfect preparation for future global success because surviving 4 consecutive high-pressure test matches demands the same physical endurance, squad depth, and mental resilience required to win a Rugby World Cup. His belief reflects something every rugby fan understands. Championships are not won in a single afternoon. They are earned through consistency, adaptation, and the ability to overcome relentless challenges week after week. This tour offers exactly that kind of examination. But beyond tactics, statistics, and preparation lies something even more meaningful. The emotional heartbeat of this series belongs to the supporters. Thousands of passionate fans are expected to travel from New Zealand to South Africa, turning stadiums into unforgettable celebrations of rugby culture. Around 3,000 traveling supporters may seem modest compared to larger international sporting events, but for a rivalry that normally requires no overseas travel at all, it represents an extraordinary commitment. Families have planned holidays around the schedule. Lifelong supporters have saved for years simply to witness this experience once. Many younger fans have never seen anything like it because they grew up during an era of short international windows rather than extended tours. For them, this will be the first opportunity to experience rugby the way previous generations described it, with anticipation building across weeks instead of days, where every provincial match tells another chapter before the main event arrives. Former captain Kieran Reid has also emphasized that the All Blacks must match the Springboks' proven formula if they hope to succeed. South Africa's physical intensity, tactical discipline, and remarkable squad depth have become defining features of their recent dominance. Matching those qualities will require complete commitment from every player wearing the black jersey. Fortunately for New Zealand, this tour provides exactly the preparation such a challenge demands. Instead of arriving only a few days before a test match, the All Blacks will already have played several competitive matches on South African soil before entering the biggest stadiums. That valuable experience could make the difference between victory and defeat. Modern cricket abandoned similar touring traditions years ago for commercial reasons, and visiting teams frequently struggle because they arrive with little time to adjust to unfamiliar conditions. Rugby now has the opportunity to prove that extended preparation still matters. Playing multiple matches allows combinations to develop naturally, players to adapt to altitude and local conditions, and coaches to fine-tune strategies before the decisive tests begin. Every training session, every provincial match, and every minute on the field becomes an investment toward the battles still to come. That is why this tour feels so different from an ordinary international series. It is not simply about winning one weekend. It is about building momentum, overcoming setbacks, creating unforgettable memories, and writing another chapter in rugby's richest rivalry. Across 6 remarkable weeks, every city, every stadium, and every supporter becomes part of a much bigger story. Television audiences around the world will watch incredible rugby, but those inside the grounds will experience something even more powerful, a living tradition returning after decades away. As the countdown continues toward the opening whistle in Cape Town, excitement grows with every passing day. History will not win tackles, score tries, or defend the goal line, but it will be present in every roar from the crowd and every determined expression on the players' faces. The Springboks will fight to protect their home, their reputation, and their status as world champions. The All Blacks will chase another achievement worthy of standing alongside the legendary incomparables of 1996. Only one side can leave with the ultimate reward, but regardless of the final scoreboard, rugby itself has already claimed a victory. The return of the traditional tour proves that even in a fast-moving professional era, some traditions remain too valuable to lose. This is more than a schedule. It is more than 4 test matches. It is the revival of rugby's greatest rivalry in its purest form, where every contest matters, every moment carries history, and every supporter becomes part of a story that will be remembered long after the final whistle blows.